Welcome to the Dart Frog server development with the Clean Architecture course. I think one of the reasons why JavaScript is so widely used is that you can develop for web, mobile, and server with a single language, JavaScript. It is a great advantage to be able to leverage the know-how of a single language to develop full-stack apps. I used to work mainly with React, React Native, and Node.js, but I realized that Flutter makes UI development very easy. So, I started using Flutter instead of React Native. However, when I moved to Flutter, I thought that it would be nice to be able to develop not only web, mobile, but also server with Dart language. And I could see that there was already many packages developed for server-side. However, I felt that there was not as extensive third-party support as JavaScript. So I continued to use Node Express for server-side. But I think the ecosystem is mature enough now that you can build the servers in Dart, even though the JavaScript ecosystem is still bigger. But Dart has something that JavaScript doesn't have. It's a type-safe object-oriented language. I find that when I go from coding in Dart to coding in JavaScript, I quickly find myself wanting to go back to coding in Dart. But as with any open-source community, there are a lot of options at the server end. And while that's a great thing, it can also make it hard to choose. Currently, some of the more popular packages for server-side Dart are Shelf, Dart Frog, and Serverpod. However, server-side Dart is not yet fully mature, so new strong players could emerge at any time. However, these three packages have slightly different objectives. Shelf is a package maintained by the Dart team that makes it easy to create and configure web servers and parts of web servers. The Shelf package is also the package on which the Dart Frog package is based. Shelf is a powerful package that gives you a lot of flexibility and control over how your server works and how you organize your projects and file structures. On the one hand, there is not a lot of documentation and few resources to learn it, so it's not easy for beginners. On the other hand, it gives experienced backend developers a lot of flexibility and control, allowing them to create servers the way they want. The Serverpod can be thought of as a package that is oriented toward the batteries included approach. Serverpod is a backend framework that has a strong connection with the Flutter and uses Postgres as a backend database. If you're planning to develop a full-stack app and use of Flutter as the front end and Postgres as the backend database, I think it's a good option. I plan to create the tutorial for Serverpod as well. Dart Frog is a fast, minimalistic backend framework that we will be using in this tutorial. Dart Frog is developed by Very Good Ventures, a company that contributes a lot to the Flutter community. Dart Frog is a great option if you want to develop an API server quickly. Dart Frog is built on top of Shelf, as I mentioned before, but it's much easier to use than Shelf. In other words, it's a package that makes the power of Shelf easy to use. Dart Frog offers features such as hot reload, Dart dev tools, file system routing, index roots, nested roots, dynamic roots, middleware, dependency injection, production builds, Docker, static file support, WebSocket, VS Code extension and more. They also provide a great deploy guide. It also has great documentation, so it's easy to learn. And because it was built with testing in mind from the start, it is very easy to test. You can watch several videos on observable Flutter about Serverpod and Dart Frog. I think it's a good sign to be introduced to observable Flutter. For more information about observable Flutter, please refer to the following link. This tutorial requires a basic knowledge of the web server and the Dart language. It's not suitable for complete beginners, but you don't need a lot of background to follow along. Just a little knowledge of RESTful APIs and the Dart language and a willingness to learn. Especially if you have experience building web servers in other languages, you shouldn't have too much trouble learning. This tutorial is organized into 12 sections. From introduction to deploy clean to do API to the globe, as you can see on the screen. Introduction is the chapter that contains the video you're currently watching and talks about the background of the tutorial, its target audience, how it's organized, and the tools it requires. Learn about two important tools for creating Dart data classes. the Dart Data Class Generator extension and the JSON serializable package. The Dart Data Class Generator extension and the JSON serializable package will be used extensively in this tutorial. So, if you are not familiar with them, please study this section. In the Dart Frog Basics section, you will learn how to create a root, request context, HTTP method, headers, query parameters, and body for a request, and status code, headers, and body for a response. Next, you'll learn about dynamic roots, wildcard roots, root conflicts, rogue roots, and more. By the end of this section, you'll be ready to start creating APIs with Dart Frog. Dart Frog provides an easy way to upload files. When you upload a file, you typically use a separate storage service to upload the file, and store the link returned by the storage service in your database. In this section, you'll learn how to upload files using a popular storage service provider called Cloudinary. A server built with Dart Frog is also a combination of many things. So there are many things to test. But the elements that are unique to Dart Frog are the root handler and the middleware, so we can say that the unit tests for the root handler and the middleware are added to the other tests. In this section, you'll learn about testing for root handlers, middleware, and remote API calls. Dart Frog doesn't bundle any features, helpers, or resources for authentication out of the box. This means that developers have complete freedom to implement server authentication in the way that best suits their needs. However, it would be too difficult to get started if nothing was provided. So Dart Frog provides easy access to two basic authentication methods: basic authentication and bearer authentication through a package called Dart Frog Auth. In this section, we'll learn how to use these two authentication methods in the Dart Frog app. In this section, you will learn about the concept of clean architecture, its advantages and disadvantages, and how each layer of clean architecture is organized, how it relates to solid, and its call flow. In this section, we'll discuss two Dart-specific technologies that we'll be using in our clean architecture: callable classes, which allow us to use class instances like functions, and either type, which has to do with error handling. The Clean To Do API uses the Postgres Dart package to make CRUD operations to the PostgreSQL database. So, we'll see how to use the Postgres package to make CRUD operation to the PostgreSQL database. In the Clean To Do API, we also develop the ability to make CRUD operation to MongoDB using the Mongo Dart package to demonstrate how we can reduce the dependency on technical details when applying clean architecture. So, we'll learn how to make CRUD operation to the MongoDB database using the Mongo Dart package. In this section, we will develop a To-Do API using clean architecture. The To-Do API we will develop has the following features: auth feature to handle authentication-related functions, To-Dos feature to manage to-do items, and users feature to manage user information. The auth feature has sign up, sign in, and reset password functions. The To-Dos feature has create to-do, fetch to-dos, fetch to-do, toggle to-do, update to-do, and delete to-do functions. And the users feature has read me to read my profile information, update me to update my profile information, change password, and delete me. In this section, you will learn how to deploy the Clean To Do API you developed to the globe. To deploy to the globe, you need to use a cloud database instead of a local database. In this section, you will also learn how to use Supabase as a PostgreSQL cloud database and Mongo Atlas as a MongoDB cloud database.